Paul has prepared a medley of songs today, upbeat. I want to hear everybody singing, especially you.
Yes, in the arena.
Now, today is a special day, our 95th anniversary. And since it's the first meeting of the month, we begin with the Star Spangled Banner.
It's playing, huh? Wow. It's feeling patriotic.
Oh, sing and you sing by the dawn's early light. Once the valley we and the twilight's last gleaming, whose was brightest and bright stars through the perilous fight. For the red was being watched, were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red flag, the bumpers singing, gave through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner for the land of the free and the hope of the brave.
Where's the flyover?
We're skipping that.
We have Pastor Luke Gordon here, and he's going to give the invocation.
Hey, good morning. My name is Luke. I just wanted to speak on behalf of our entire staff. They are in the back corner there. So if you would just turn real quick and wave to them. So this is the staff here at New Providence Presbyterian Church. I'm the new pastor. I came here in August from Texas, a land far, far away. But I'm delighted to be here. I absolutely love that this group does this. And as a church, we are delighted to host. We want this campus used by the community, and this is such a great use. The two things I love about Old Guard, first, is that it's a band of brothers. Like, what a cool thing that guys have a place to get together weekly and have relationship and friendship, which is just great. And then the second thing is that this group is a group of lifelong learners. And so those are things that I care about deeply at the church, continuing to learn all of our life. So thank you for what you do. I'm done talking. I'm really here to pray. So let me just say an opening prayer and just welcome you. Let's do that. Father God, we are just so grateful as a church to have a group like this. Thank you for the Old Guard and for these men, for their lives, and for the community that happens here on Tuesday mornings. Lord, I trust that you're in it. And God, just we're grateful for all of the good and beautiful in this world. And as these men continue to learn and discover and are in awe of the beauty of life, God, I pray that you would be glorified in it. We love you. We thank you. And we just pray your blessings on this group. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen. Thank you very much.
Thanks very much, Pastor. Thank you. I'm sorry?
Flex. Yeah.
Oh, the pledge, yes.
Sorry, guys, got to stand up again.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Okay, guys, I think you may sit finally. Okay, we're going to start with When You're Smiling. Smiling. When you're smiling,
The whole time with you. When you're laughing, oh, when you're laughing, the sun comes shining through. But when you're crying, you bring on the rain to stop your sighing. Be happy again, keep on smiling, 'cause when you're smiling, the whole world smiles with you.
Very nice. Very nice, guys. And now we're gonna do another cheery song. I remember when we sang this when FDR was elected in 32, I think. Yeah.
This was the #1 song in December 1930 when we were formed. So it has double, triple meaning because
All
it
right.
was also because of the end of Prohibition.
End of Prohibition. Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, none of you would care about that. Here again, the skies above are clear again. So let's sing a song of cheer again. Happy days are here again. All together, shout it now. There's no one who can doubt it now. So let's tell the world about it now. Happy days are here again. Your cares and troubles are gone. There'll be no more from now on. Happy days are here again. The skies above are clear again. So let's sing a song of cheer again. Happy days are here again. Okay, if there were a Republican song from that era.
Keep going.
We'll hear about it.
All right.
And now our informal anthem, Consider Yourself. Consider yourself at home. Consider yourself one of the family. We've taken to you so strong. It's clear we're going to get along. Consider yourself well in. Consider yourself part of the furniture. There isn't a lot to spare. Who cares? Whatever we got, we share. If it should chance to be, we should see some harder days. Empty larder days. Why grouse? Always a chance we'll meet somebody to foot the bill. Then the drinks are on the house. Consider yourself our mate. We don't want to have no fuss. Or after some consideration, we can state, consider yourself one of us. And now we're going to sing a special verse of the Old God song. And Mitch, you had something to do with this, huh?
I changed the date. Seriously, this was written for our 75th anniversary when we just keep updating the date on it. And it was written by, I'm blanking, help me, Warren Story, who's a former member. And they had a contest, and Herb lost and Warren won on writing the verse. Anyway, Well, this is the special anniversary verse.
The years have gone, the years have gone, and still the old heart won. We prove that the ready helping hand can help enrich our lives. For 95 years we sing the strength of our camaraderie. We look straight ahead with heads held high. All praise, all God to thee. Thank you, guys. Thank you for all. Thank you, Joel.
Gentlemen, we're going to have partly normal meeting, partly 95th. Where is our humorist for the day? Ron? Ron Whiting.
No, I had a whole routine planned, but then I got an email from Mitch wanting to know if I had anything appropriate for a 95th anniversary. And at the time, I sort of hedged because I didn't know if I was. You can't hear me? That bad? Okay. Well, I did. I hedged a little bit about changing my routine because I wasn't sure if I could find this in the hundreds of books that are scattered all over my house. But I did. And what it is not 95 years old. It's 89 years old. It's a 1941 edition of the 1936 World's Best Jokes, compiled by a guy named Lewis Copeland. Now, when I read this, I said, if these are the world's best jokes in 1936, then I don't want to hear the worst ones. These are terrible. Among other things, they are also stereotypical racist. They literally, they are. In fact, the best one of those is, why do Jews not live in Scotland? And the answer is because they can't make a living there. That is one of the better ones that fit into this thing. This is in categories you wouldn't believe. But anyway, so I didn't really find it very funny. It's more along the lines of, well, I found this, it was free. Let me see what it's about. Historically, it's probably important because it shows attitudes from 1936, but it's not really, most of it is not really good. But anyway, I am going to pull a few selections out of this. A lot of them are written in dialect. So and people would know what that means. It's, well, anyway, so I'm going to take some of that out. But I'm just going to pull out a few of these because, so let me get, and I have to take this off because I can't read with those on. Anyway, okay. There's one here. The hostess says, it looks like a storm. You had better stay for dinner. The caller says, oh, thanks, but I don't think it's bad enough for that. A small town shoe repairer left the gas turned on in his shop one night, and upon arriving in the morning, struck a match to light it. There was a terrific explosion, and the shoemaker was blown out through the door and almost to the middle of the street. A fellow villager rushed to his assistance, and after helping him to rise, inquired if he was injured. The old fellow gazed at his place of business, which was now burning quite briskly, and said, no, I ain't hurt, but I got out just in time. The old pawnbroker was in his deathbed. His entire family had gathered. The old pawnbroker was on his deathbed. His entire family had gathered in the little bedroom back of the pawn shop, where there were rails and teals aplenty. At last, the old pawnbroker roused himself as if to speak, and his wife and children pressed forward to hear his last words. Is Mama there? He breathed painfully when there was silence. Says, yes, Papa. Is my daughter Rivka there? Yes, Papa. Is my daughter Rachel here? Yes, Papa. Is my son Isaac here? Yes, Papa. Is my son Max here? Yes, Papa. Is the whole family here? Yes, Papa. Then tell me, who's minding the store? What are you doing here, Bo? I'm writing a letter to my brother out in Leavenworth. Go on, Bo. You know you don't know how to write. That don't make no difference. My brother don't know how to read. The doctor says to the patient, "You cough more easily this morning." The patient says, "I should. I've been practicing all night." The old lady enters a drugstore and approached the young man who presided over the soda fountain. "Are you a doctor?" she inquired, peering at the youth close-sightedly. "No, ma'am," replied the soda plug. "I'm a physician." You got to realize this was funny in 1936. Okay, we'll give it one more. If you can stand one more, we'll give it one more. Okay, Pat, why in the world do you drink so much? Well, it's this way, Your Honor. I eat onions to kill the smell of whiskey, and I think, oi, I have to drink more whiskey to kill the smell of the onions. And with that groaning, I think I will leave it at that.
Leon, may we have the minutes, please?
Ron, I just want to state that those jokes were one of the reasons we had the Depression. And one of the reasons it went on so long. First, I would like to state that I'm proud to be here on this on the agenda on this historic day. Next, I have been asked by the November reporting secretary to read this statement. To the membership, I can't take responsibility for the accuracy and truthfulness of the November 25 meeting minutes. While these documents are clearly authentic, it is safe to assume that they have no historical value. Sincerely, your friend, the November 2025 reporting secretary. P.S. I look forward to again assuming this position in 2026. Ron, I know how you felt now. These are the meeting minutes of November 18th. November 18th. Well, November 25th. Actually, wait a minute. These are totally wrong. I'll get back to you next week.
Thank you for the minutes. A terse, accurate description. The Outreach Committee.
Brief report, Peter Fassel, our treasurer, had a fall. He was in rehab for a while. He successfully is recovered. He'd be here today except for the rain. So he's on our way and should be rejoining the meeting shortly. That's the only report. If there's any other people you would like me to call, just in the directory, Mike Martin, let me know either via phone or email. Thank you.
Gentlemen, let's go to the regular announcements part of the meeting.
Good morning. I'm Jim Blinn, and I want to tell you about the timely topics discussion that we'll be having next week after the regular meeting. The topic will be GLP-1s, which might be quite appropriate given Thanksgiving and Christmas. And so you know them by the name that they advertise under: Ozempic, Wegovy, Mounjaro, and others. So originally they were set up to take care of people with type 2 diabetes as a way to improve an improvement on taking insulin. However, subsequently, as you know, they've been approved for weight loss management. And in fact, they've been so successful that it increased the demand tremendously. So next week, I'd like to hear about your experiences, either yours or your friends or your family, and have they been positive or negative, or you're not sure yet. So let's see, there's one thing. Oh yeah, do you think the government should subsidize the cost for these drugs, since they might reduce or help with the healthcare costs that the government has to pay now? And so Dave Bondi and I, with the help of ChatGPT and Gemini, put together some information on this topic, and we'd like to share that with you next week. I'll be sending an email out to the Timely Topics mailing list. So if you want to be added to that list, please give me a call and I'll put you on. I look forward to seeing you next week after the regular meeting for our discussion. Thank you.
Tom Lean, the walking group will meet Thursday at 10:15 at Bryant Park. We'll meet at the gazebo on the corner of Bryant Parkway and Springfield Avenue. We'll do 2 laps, 2.2 miles. All right, thank you.
Today is luncheon day. I've been instructed to mention that there will be no golf tomorrow. But today, there will be a golf luncheon. And Larry? Vintage Tavern at noon. Grab a piece of cake and run. There is cake and coffee after the meeting. But golf, Vintage Tavern at noon. I should mention that the OGARD Council will have another separate luncheon at 12:30 at Winberry's in Summit. We have an honored guest with us today, Mayor Al Morgan. Can you come forward? Al Morgan is a 5-time mayor. Welcome. Of New Providence, born in New Providence, went to New Providence High, and your kids went to New Providence High, right?
And my grandkids are here. They're in elementary school here. So
That's a great story. Please.
It's truly an honor for me to be here. Good morning. There's not too many organizations that say they've been around for 95 years. And I would have to say that the Old Guard is the oldest in the area. The second closest, I think, is the William Packard Club in town, which started in 43. So you guys are definitely taking a trophy. So we made up a proclamation to honor all of you and what you do. Whereas on November 26, 1930, 15 men in Summit, New Jersey met informally to discuss the possibility of forming an organization of retired men for diversion, mutual benefit, and enjoyment. And on December 2nd, 1930, the Old Guard Summit was formed using Old Guard as a term of endearment for retired men and not to a term of age. And whereas on December 9th, 1930, a resolution was adopted under the new Constitution and bylaws designating December 2nd, 1930 as Founders Day of the Old Guard. And whereas the newly founded organization became the inspiration for the formation of Old Guard groups in many communities in New Jersey, as well as many other states around the country. And whereas for the first 65 years, the Old Guard met in the city of Summit, and then for the next 25 years in the borough of New Providence, you saw the light. For over 3 years, they have been A meeting in the New Providence Presbyterian Church. The key to success of the Old Guard has always been quality and knowledge of speakers who present interesting and informative programs. Whereas over the past 95 years, the Old Guard has continued or has conducted 4,343 meetings. That's incredible. And whereas they currently have 232 members with 14% from New Providence. I don't know any organization around that has 232 members. That is truly incredible. Whereas on December 2nd, 2025, the Old Guard celebrated their 95th anniversary. Now, therefore, I, Alan Morgan, do hereby congratulate the Summit Area Old Guard on this momentous occasion and wish them continued success in their future endeavors. And thank you for all you do. And you know what? I was asked to come and speak sometime about what goes on in New Providence, and I'd be happy to do so and honored. Thank you.
Thank you very much on behalf of the membership. To hear the pastor and the mayor talk about us reminds us of who we really are. We would like to talk next, Steve Varley, about what was going on in the year 1930.
Remember it well. Aha. Good morning, everyone. You know, when you look back over the last century, certain years just pop out as iconic years. Years that we know instantly what happened. 1929 was the classic example. We all know that that was the year that Wall Street collapsed. 1945 was another, a year that witnessed not only the end of World War II, but also the dawn of the nuclear age. And sadly, for so many of us, 1963 was another such year. We can never forget that that was the year that President John Kennedy was assassinated. You know, when you look at 1930, it's not that iconic sounding. But when you get underneath the hood, you realize that it was an incredibly seminal year, both domestically and internationally. First and foremost, it was the first full year of the Great Depression. Sure, the markets had collapsed in the previous October, but the real economic hurt, the real bite of the recession, didn't occur until 1930. In fact, on the very day that the Old Guard was founded, December the 2nd of 1930, then President Herbert Hoover addressed a joint session of Congress to give his State of the Union message. And when you read through that message, you're struck by the litany of bad economic news that the president cited. Industrial production, he said, was down 20%, while manufacturing employment was off 16%, and wholesale wages had dropped some 17%. Curiously, the one economic statistic that he did not cite was the unemployment rate. And there's a very good reason for that. Hard as it is to believe, the government actually didn't measure unemployment back in the 1930s. That development would not take place until the 1940s. Nonetheless, economic historians have looked back on that era and determined that at its worst, the unemployment rate hit 25%. Think about that for a second. Out of every 4 workers who were willing to work and looking for work, only 3 of them would have a job. Hoover was a Stanford-trained engineer, and his solution was infrastructure spending. Spending on highways and waterways and the like. And he asked the Congress to appropriate $100 to $150 million for such additional spending. Nowadays, $150 million would be chump change in the federal budget, but back then it was a significant amount of money. Unfortunately, that proposal proved to be far too little and far too late, and the Hoover administration would be swept out of power in the Roosevelt landslide of 1932. Meanwhile, some 4,000 miles away in Germany, the seeds of World War II were being sown. In the German parliamentary elections that September, the National Socialist German Workers' Party, we know them as the Nazis, actually gained 107 seats in the Reichstag. That did not make them the top party in the Reichstag. That title went to the Social Democrats, who still had 143 seats. But those numbers are misleading because by 1930, the Social Democrats were very much in decline, while the Nazis were very much on the rise. In that 1930 election, the Social Democrats actually lost 10 seats, going from 143 to 133, while the Nazis incredibly gained 95 seats, going from 12 to 107. The communists were in third place with some 77 seats. Of course, fringe parties like the Nazis and the communists tend to do well during times of economic distress. And 1930 was a double whammy year for Germany. Not only were they suffering from the Depression, but they were also staggering under the draconian reparations that they had to pay coming out of the Treaty of Versailles, which ended World War I. Unfortunately, the news got worse as time went on. In January of 1933, Hitler was appointed chancellor. In September of 1939, Germany invaded Poland from the west, while its then ally Russia invaded Poland from the east, setting off a world war that would last for 6 years and take the lives of an estimated 70 to 85 million people, both soldiers and civilians alike. On a happier note, 1930 was a census year, and we learned that we were a nation of almost 123 million people. New York was the most populous state in the nation, by far, followed by Pennsylvania, Illinois, Ohio, and Texas. Our own New Jersey ranked number 9. Interestingly, California, which today is the most populous state in the nation by far, didn't even crack the top 5 back in 1930. We also learned that we were a nation of over 14 million immigrants, my own parents among them. But the most striking thing about the census was it revealed how white the population was. Roughly 89% of the population was white, 8 out of every 9 people. Blacks amounted for almost 10% of the population, while there was a smattering of Hispanic and Asian Americans. Fast forward 90 years to the census of 2020, and the picture is radically different. Today, whites account for about 60% of the population. Blacks have increased their share to almost 12.5%, but the startling increase is with Hispanic and Asian Americans at roughly 19% and 6% respectively. I should caution you that over the last century, the Census Bureau has changed somewhat its definitions of race and ethnicity, and so you can't really directly compare those statistics, pardon me, but clearly they are roughly right, and there's no doubt that we are a far more diverse nation today than we were back in 1930. Well, what were those 123 million people watching in the movies back then, and what were they listening to on the radio? All Quiet on the Western Front won the Academy Award that year. And runner-ups included the Big House with the great Wallace Beery. George Arliss won the Academy Award for males for his portrayal of Prime Minister Benjamin Disraeli. And Norma Shearer won the Academy Award for women for her role in the play and movie The Divorcee. And here's one for DJ. Also a runner-up was The Love Parade with the great French entertainer Maurice Chevalier. And what songs were they listening to? Well, as you heard earlier, primarily Happy Days or Here Again, which was also the campaign theme song for Franklin Roosevelt in his 1932 campaign. But also among the top songs was Putting on the Ritz and On the Sunny Side of the Street. Amazing, isn't it, that during a time of economic adversity that the songs were so optimistic? Of course, as the Depression wore on, they became more pessimistic. And in 1932, the population was listening to Bing Crosby's rendition of Brother, Can You Spare a Dime? Okay. Of course, no mention of 1930 would be complete without talking about what prices looked like back then. And if you could actually purchase a house for some $6,000. I guess that's about what a monthly mortgage payment would run these days, just to put that in perspective. A Ford Model A could be had for $500, a pair of men's dress shoes for just $4, and a cup of coffee just as this morning, simply a nickel. The good news, if you were preparing breakfast at home, was that you could get both a loaf of bread and a dozen eggs for just 30 cents. Now, before you fall completely in love with those prices, be aware that the average income back then was less than $1,400, roughly $26 a week. And I should add, however, that in the 95 years since then, our economic growth has been enormous. Real per capita income today is some 7 times higher than it was in 1930. We are almost immeasurably better off economically today than we were in the year 1930. Well, there you have it, a thumbnail sketch of the year 1930, a year in which our old guard predecessors were sent into early retirement by the Depression. They were no longer traveling down to the Summit rail station early on weekday mornings to take the Delaware, Lackawanna, and Western Railroad into Manhattan. And instead, they turned their time and attention to creating an organization that would thrive for 95 years and continuing. Mitch, back to you.
So I'm going to take you down memory lane, but also talk a little bit about what we're doing now, and then Pete will end up with a look into our future after I get done. So this is on December 2nd, 1930. These are the handwritten notes. Don't try and read them because I'll show you the typed ones in the next thing. And Marvin Heberd was the, there we go, was the director for our first 2 years. And that's his signature there at the top. And here's what the typed up notes look like. And I think it's worth noting, our motto was live and let live. And our objective was to get together for mutual diversion and benefit, which I think we still do, and to lend assistance in any measure possible to the progress of Summit and its citizens. So that's what we thought in 1930. So that's what we thought of ourselves in 1930. And fast forward to 1940. This is a toast. And I think this guy must be the guest of honor, given that he has a laurel wreath on his head. They're all in tuxedos, and they went to the Salma Gundy Club on Fifth Avenue, which I looked up and is still an arts center. But you can see all of the portraits on the back wall. And then 2 years later, we had a less formal dinner, let's just say. I don't know where this is in New York, but some mural artist really went wild and crazy with the stuff on the back wall. And this guy here, I assume, must be some kind of guest of honor with that great big fake mustache. But again, what was going on in 1942, I haven't seen the records. So here we are in 1952, and out in front of the Y, and you see everybody's got a hat. Everybody had to have a fedora back then.
And during the summer, before air conditioning, we had our meetings. The Y had too much going on in their building with youth programs and stuff. So the Y kicked us out. We went over to the park in Summit and had a meeting there. And I'm drawing a blank on the name of the building, the field house, and then we go out and play croquet and swing on the slings. So there you are. Now, this is our 4,343rd meeting, and this is a much more recent picture. And we've done, since we started doing the Zooming in 2020 with the COVID, we've done 339 meetings. And when we got over here, we've had 162 where there's you guys and them guys. And over the whole time, we've had about 45 meetings a year. Recently, it's been more like 48. So we've taken fewer breaks through the year. And so we keep up meetings just pretty much except for the last couple of weeks of December, and one meeting in the year, one Tuesday when we have Ladies' Day instead of a meeting. As Al mentioned, we spent 55 years at the Y. Then we moved for 10 years over to Brayton School. We had to move because the Y was undergoing a complete major renovation. And so we got into Brayton, and we liked it so well that when the renovation at the Y was done, we said, no thanks, we'll stay right here. And then Brayton got too busy with their gym and so forth. So we spent 25 years at the Municipal Borough Hall over here, just 2 blocks away. And then the last 3 years right here. So that's kind of what our progress has been in terms of buildings. For 2 years, we did Zoom only with the COVID, and miraculously, thanks to several people, but notably Paul Tukey, we only missed one meeting where we just canceled it and said, we can't get together. But we figured out a way to get back together on Zoom. Wasn't the same as being here, but we got it done, and we kept the organization alive. And then our hybrid meetings look something like that. Now you don't even need this slide, just look around. And I'm going to interrupt myself for a second. Steve's going to pass around business cards. I passed them around a couple months ago. What I want you to do is take a dozen and then hand those out. I don't want them sitting in your dresser drawer. I want them handed out because we're at 232 members, and it sure would be nice to have another couple of dozen, 3 dozen members in 26. So Steve will be passing those around, and do take as many as you think you can hand out. And if you still got some left over from when I gave them out last summer, well, shame on you. Anyway, back to the story. The reason we're here today is because we've had great speakers, and over the last 10 years or so, I categorized all the speakers into these different categories, and you'll see history is number one, then health and medicine, government and law. You can read all the way down, different categories. And the beauty of this is clearly that we have a diverse set of speakers covering a wide range of topics. And within each one of these categories, there's history, and then there's history. Okay. And so pretty impressive. Some of the famous speakers: Christy Whitman spoke to us twice. Mikey Sherrill spoke to us in 22 via Zoom. Bob Franks, Rodney Frelinghuysen, and a non-politician. Two times we got Bobby Thompson to come in and talk to us about baseball. On another set of of nationally known speakers, George Smith got the Nobel Prize in physics, and what he did was invent the CCD, which is why you don't have film in your smartphone when you take a picture. And William Campbell also spoke to us 3 times before he got his Nobel Prize, and he was famous for curing a tropical disease called river blindness with a drug called ivermectin. Al Aho, our member who's right there. Hi, Al. And Bill Kaming, and then Lonnie Bunch, who was the secretary of the Smithsonian and the founding director of the National Museum of African American History and Culture. So Bill Kaming, he was the chief prosecutor in the Nuremberg trials, and he talked to us in 91, 2000, and 2003. After his Army service, he was senior counsel at AT&T for a bunch of years and did all sorts of high-end legal stuff with them. And he was a member here for 23 years. And I see some nodding heads of people who remember Bill. So that's a picture of him at the Nuremberg trials, and then down below is a picture of him later in life. Another one, Al Aho. Again, everybody wave at Al. And how algorithms are shaping our lives. He did that. And the algorithm that I remember is from the back of a shampoo bottle. Apply, lather, rinse, repeat. And the algorithm as it stands, as it's written, is you can't ever get done. You keep repeating shampooing your hair in the shower forever. Anyway, and he won the Turing Award, which is the Nobel Prize essentially the Nobel Prize for computer scientists. And he's been a member for almost a decade now. And even though he's moved to North Carolina, he's religious for 2 things. One is he Zooms in every Tuesday, and the other is he always asks a penetrating question of the speaker. We'll see what Al asks today. And among the things that he's famous for is writing books on compilers, which is software that's somewhere between the ones and zeros at the very base of a computer and the programs that we know and love. And this book is fondly known as the Red Dragon book by the computer science people. And anyway, that's one of our famous speakers. And Nolan Ash gave 11 presentations. We all remember him for talking about Alexander Hamilton. He did one on Eleanor Roosevelt, Woman of Many Causes, General Hancock, Charles Dickens, the U.S. Constitution, and then Woodstock. And Nolan was there all 3 days. They got there early and got a good seat and or a good hunk of land or whatever you call it. And so he talked about it. And he did 3 different presentations on asteroids and the threat that they present to the world. And he had gone down to Washington and lobbied Congress on passing laws, which they did eventually. But he was passionate on this issue of saving the human race, which is not a bad thing to be passionate about. Anyway, we all miss Nolan, and he died too young. But anyway, he gave 11 presentations. So hint, hint, maybe some of you guys out there might want to do a couple of presentations. You could even do one on Alexander Hamilton. I'm sure there must be something that Nolan didn't say. All right. Another famous speaker, and Jerry Eisenberg grew up in Newark and watched the whole change of that town and wrote a book on an interracial love affair. And the book club here read after the fire, and then we had him talk about it. And then he also talked about Super Bowl memories. He went and he covered as a journalist 53 Super Bowls, and he had, and a lot of other things like Kentucky Derby and so forth. So he has a wealth of information. And there's just 3 of his books that I picked out. What a great speaker! What a great journalist! And this is back to Christy Whitman, and the 2006 annual report was written here by Herb, and the 165 attendance was the highest in recent years, and her title was "It's My Party Too." So even back in 2006, she was lobbying for a different position on certain things with the Republicans. More recently, Mikey Sherrill, who's currently a congresswoman, and as we all know from all the ads, a helicopter pilot. And then Will Happer from Princeton came and talked to us about greenhouse gases, particularly CO2, and he's a contrarian on some of the climate change things. So we he's an internationally known physicist, and look at that. His YouTube has 267,000 views. That's awesome. Speaking of YouTubes, we've got like, what you told me to change this number. Was it 302? Okay, 302 recordings. You told me and I forgot to cheat. Huh? Okay. So anyway, if you haven't done this, go to the YouTube site and type in Summit Old Guard, and you can get 242 videos. So like if you missed a meeting in October, you can just go in there and dial it up. It's really cool. So thank you, Joel. And of course we sing. You heard us this morning, and we've been doing it. There's pictures in 1957, 1973 with the singers, and from 2003 to till the COVID hit, we had a songbook that had a cover like this. Here's a bunch of us practicing in the old building with Paul on the keyboard as opposed to the nice piano we got here. And there's 2019. I think our video arrangement here is better for seeing what's going on in terms of song lyrics. Another one, and then just last month, or I guess 2 months ago, anyway. So we've been singing, and Warren Story came up with this, and I told you earlier, the fifth line there was 75 years, and so we've been updating that for the different anniversaries. It's real hard to change 75 to 95, but I did it. And we play a lot too. Back in the day, we had finance, Santa phone, timely topics were some of the interest groups. I think the Santa phone thing lasted for about 10 years. Now we've got a whole bunch more, and the list is about nine interest groups now. And that's largely because we used to have interest groups that could only happen 10 minutes after the end of the regular meeting. Remember? Everybody says 10 minutes. And now we have all these other ones, and they're on Monday and Friday and every day in between. And
So, and we got plenty of room on the Zoom channel. So if anybody wants to start up another interest group, we got the space. And I don't know what happened with the math guys, but somebody told a funny joke, and so you didn't know mathematicians could laugh like this, but there you go. And activities, we've had bowling and bridge and tennis and shuffleboard. Shuffleboard was a real big deal here 30, 40 years ago. Now we have bocce, canoeing, kayaking, really, fishing, golf, lunches, trips in theater, walking. And there's 7 of those in 25. And here's just a picture of our guys fishing and kayaking. And then it's kind of dormant right now, but the chess group, there's a picture of the guys playing chess. And bocce's such a big deal. We have actually a Thursday group and a Friday group on bocce. And then our golfers go out every Wednesday morning in the more pleasant weather and, play 9 holes on the Summit Muni. Support groups, we've had support groups with these kinds of titles for all along, and the same list is, we pretty much do the same set of support. The names have changed over the years, but basically the same thing. About 26 support groups to keep this organization running, and 70 members do something in the support group area, covering 138 positions. So clearly there's several people who are doing 2, 3, 4 things to keep this organization running. And it's just amazing. There's just an example. There's the coffee. You don't have to look at the slides right back there. And we communicate. Well, how do we communicate? Well, we issue directories, and the oldest one I found is 1951 with this really exotic letterhead. I didn't even know what the name of that font is. And then 1955, we started with the format that we all know and love, this folder kind of a thing. And and there's just that, and oh wait, back up here. So in 1951, they had 5-digit phone numbers. By 1955, we'd gone to 7-digit phone numbers, but they were the 2 letters and 5 numbers. And now, of course, we just use the whole 10 digits. There's just some colored cute pictures of different, 1980 was our 50th, so of course it was in gold. And there's an example of the program for the 50th back there on the table. And 75th was our diamond anniversary. And so we had a diamond theme cover. Today, if you haven't done it, put it on your phone and you'll see something that looks about like that on the screen. And you just scroll down with your finger and you get to a page like that. And then you click on whatever it is you want to see. And I clicked on the Rolodex and I got, the names and addresses of everybody. The cool thing there is you get to this page and you just touch your finger on that phone number and you're calling Pete Bolton, and telling him what a crappy job Erickson did. So if you haven't done it, do it. If you don't know how to download a PDF to your phone, get one of our techie wizards to show you how to do it. Anyway, we also have a website with many, many buttons across the top. Again, wealth of information. old annual reports, photos of this, that, and the other thing. And most importantly, as you see down in the lower left-hand column, there's today's program. So if you want to know what's coming up, now personally, I don't really care what's coming up because I come every Tuesday, but some people pick and choose off the Chinese menu and don't come when they don't want to. But anyway, that's all great website. We have bulletins, and in 2004, our director, Herb Waddell, wrote a message. And then we found paper copies that look something like this, and scanned them in. Over 800 bulletins are now from 64 to the present are now in a Dropbox, and that we can give you that link. I'm definitely not going to dictate it to you, but thanks to Aaron Rosenberg for doing that scanning. It was, I don't know how many hours of work he did to do it, but, and if you want to get to the Dropbox, take a picture of that QR code and you get right there. So it's really fascinating to look at those old directories, and it's been a wealth of information whenever we have questions about like when did somebody speak and so forth. Interestingly, going back to those lists of speakers, it was kind of hard to validate the rumor that we had 2 Nobel Prize winners, because Bill Kaming spoke to us before he got the Nobel Prize, so he was not listed as a Nobel Prize winner. We had to do a little digging to get that one. All right. And then we have a weekly blast that's come out since 97. Paul Tukey has done this by himself. So if anybody's really gung-ho on helping Paul out, maybe take a shift of doing a couple of the weekly blasts or a couple of months worth or something. We publicize ourselves. Jim Fleischman sends in a monthly submission to Rena Media, and we ask them to put it in 8 different towns worth of papers, and roughly speaking, hits about 80,000 homes. And we also submit stuff to Tap Into. There are several Tap Intos. I just picked Summit, but there's a New Providence, Berkeley Heights, et cetera, et cetera. We also do Facebook. Bob Vandervalk religiously puts us up. This is from a couple of weeks ago when we heard about the Appalachian Trail. Somebody in my house looked at that and said, "Is that picture AI generated?" Anyway, and we also put announcements in the patch for the different towns. And so several of us do that just to get the word out, and hopefully convince somebody to come and be a guest and then become a member. But anyway, we try and keep ourselves in the in the visibility in our various towns. We have picnic, Ladies' Day, and holiday party, our annual recurring events. Ladies' Day, you'll notice that in 1990, we had the baklava ensemble present at Brayton School. And then we all got in our cars and drove over to the Grand Summit Hotel for lunch, cocktail hour, and so forth. More recently, 95, I found, I guess Paul found this, but you too can buy a program for $22.97, and they had assigned seating back then. So I don't know who's selling programs, but and I'm not sure if anybody's buying, but it's out there on eBay. more recently in 2016, for our 86th annual meeting, we had a speaker, Susan Spiegel, who talked about education at the Paper Mill Playhouse. And then more recently, 2019, there was a group of us at the Basking Ridge Country Club with those wonderful windows looking out over the golf course. And last year, or this year, there's a bunch of people sitting around at the restaurant that we had our luncheon at. I'm just threw this in there. I have no idea who these people are, and I don't know the exact, but somehow I'm hoping that this was Loud Jacket Day and not just normal attire. Maybe we should bring Loud Jacket Day back, or Loud Tie Day, something. Rich, there you go, something for 26 to plan in. And the picnics, you remember in 22 we had the husband-wife team, the Stanleys, talking about their Stanley steamer that was had ties to Chatham, and they drove over from Chatham in their Stanley steamer, and we all got to take a close-up look at it, and that was a lot of fun. And there's a group photo of that. And then 23, more people eating hamburgers. And there's Doug right there in the front row in the blue shirt. Hi, Doug. And 25, we kept postponing because it was raining or whatever, and we couldn't use the park, so we just ended up having it on the third week. We finally decided to have it right here, and that turned out to be really, I thought, a wonderful picnic, even though it was indoors. But there's just our motley crew, and we've had the Larks come and sing to us several times, and here's one for our 75th in 2005, and then we had them for Christmas last year. And sneak preview, they're coming back in 2 weeks. And holiday luncheons. And if you look at the far left and the far right, there's two guys taking a picture of the photographer, taking a picture of the group. And I just wanted to mention, I'm not sure if anybody from the other chapters is online, but if you are, hello and thank you for coming. Over the years, we've had 52 chapters. We were the first, and we were in 9 other states. In 1973, there were 4,800 members in 21 chapters. Amazingly, the Point Pleasant chapter had 1,300 members. And so, I mean, they had their own golf league, their own shuffleboard league, their own bowling league, just within the chapter. And from 1947, these are just some clip outs of the bulletin. There were a dozen chapters in New Jersey and half a dozen chapters scattered around in Oil City, Pennsylvania, and Lockport, New York, and so forth. We are, and here's the current chapters, and I want to just focus on a couple of chapters. First of all, Princeton has about 300 members, and they are co-ed. And then the Senior Men's Club of Birmingham, Michigan does not use the term old guard, but in 1957, a guy moved from Plainfield out to Birmingham, Michigan, which is suburban Detroit. And he said, you guys need to start an old guard chapter. And somehow in the process of starting up the chapter, they decided to not call it the old guard, but the Senior Men's Club. But there is definitely a linkage to us. And they're currently at about 565 members. So we have
couple of small chapters and a couple of big chapters. And yeah, yeah. No, I mean, if you wanted to go to, I can get you not only the contact information but also a, meeting date. Some of them meet on Tuesdays, some meet on Friday. The, Birmingham, Michigan guys meet in one of these venue places that does weddings and graduations and so forth. So they just stay right there in the same building and have lunch afterwards. So, and what we do and who we are is governed by something called the Blue Book. If you are an insomniac, I highly recommend picking this book up at 1 a.m. and starting to read it. It is updated regularly, and the last update was with Mark. Yeah.
The chapters, there's not an overall organization of which there are chapters. The chapters are all independent of each other. But
Yes.
years ago, the chairs and the leadership people actually got together with each other, and they would drive places because they didn't have Zoom, and they had a sort of a higher level fraternity, and it was very active. And it fell into non-existence. But Mitch Erickson himself has found these chapters that still exist, contacted them all, and has actually created now mostly an online organization of the chapters. So maybe one day they'll have a website. Thanks, Mitch.
I neglected to point out here on this slide, the 2 boxes on the right are from the Old Guard Bulletin, which had several pages, and each chapter got about a half a page or something, just to kind of talk about what they were up to, somewhat brag about how we do it right and you guys don't do it right, whatever. Anyway, Blue Book is where we have our bylaws and procedures, and it is important, and it's thank you to the guys that keep it up. And our membership profile looks something like that. In 1972, we maxed out at 449, and you see clear over on the left that first dot on the plot is 31 members in December of 1930. And we're currently at about 232. It's been a slow decline, and we certainly always hope that we're going to see an uptick in that membership. This is John Matten. I'm the past president of the Senior Men's Club of Birmingham. I've been communicating with Mitch about sharing information. Congratulations to the Old Garden Summit for 95 years. We will celebrate our 70th in a few years. So, yes, and I've been on the phone with him. He seems like a reasonable guy. Being that they're in Detroit last summer, one of their trips that they took was to the Edsel Ford Estate, which is 90 acres in Grosse Pointe, Michigan's on Lake St. Clair. So they do some of the same things we do. They do some different things. So thank you, John, for chiming in. All right. And we're all over. Summit's still got the most number of members, but we're in 47 different towns and 14 other states. We got 3 members in North Carolina, a couple in California, Bill Apperzee's out in Seattle, and we are 232 members strong. So it's pretty impressive.
And you can see all of the dots. You might be one of those dots on that map. I am. And we are heavily concentrated in this valley and then on up into Madison and Chatham. And we've had a logo, and we're using the one on the left for this event and for other things going on right now. We have the logo on the upper right is what we're currently using. But going back, we have variants on the orchid. I never have figured out exactly what this says. Is it TOG? Okay. OG. Okay. I guess. Okay. And several of us have lapel pins with that. We've had that kind of a logo for our 4,000. For a while, we had a circle around the orchid with an open circle instead of the darker blue circle we now have. We had this for the 2019. And now we have the ever popular QR code. And you click on the QR code and you go right to our homepage of our website. Again, one of the themes is we've got a lot of traditions, a lot of things that we keep doing that we've always done, and they seem to work, but we're always modernizing ourselves. Anniversary celebrations in the 50th and the 75th. And there's a different version of the logo there on the 50th. And the 75th, they played up the diamond theme, as I mentioned earlier. And here's the program for the 75th at luncheon at the Fairmont Country Club. And 4 of the guys that were on the organizing committee are still members of the old guard: Doug Garneau, Kai Heyer, Dick Murray, and Herb Waddell. And Kai and Doug ran the luncheon committee. And look who gave a proclamation. Amazing. Al, you've been around doing this a long time. Yeah, I keep voting against him, but he doesn't work. And Doug was on the humor panel, and Doug has been our humorist for off and on for the last couple of decades. And back when we used to have the humorist as opposed to the monthly humorist, and so poor Doug had to dredge out about 48 sets of jokes every year. Yeah. All right. Anyway, and thank you, Doug, for the jokes. And here's some pictures from our 4,000. In the lower right, you see the Mayor's of Summit and New Providence. And hey, where's Steve? I got to know, what was the joke that Al told you that made you laugh that loudly? You remember the joke? It must have been hilarious. But anyway, and then in the upper right hand corner, you see a whole bunch of us. Many of us are right in this room today, and we travel. And this is going to be fun to see where we traveled to. The first few years, the first trip that we took was all the way to the Summit Telephone Exchange, which I believe was on an upper floor of the building that's now Roots. But that was 2 months after we were formed. So and then later on that same year, we went to the home of one of the members, one of Summer Place on a lake. And by 1936, we started a tradition of going to factories. And so we went to a Pryor ice cream plant, we took a bus. By 55, we had lunch in Princeton with the Princeton chapter, and that was hosted by former Governor Walter Edge, and I believe his son was an active member in one of the chapters. Somehow or another, we got out to Teddy Roosevelt's home in Sagamore Hill and the New York World's Fair. And I don't even want to think about the logistics of making sure everybody got back on the bus after the World's Fair. Anyway, moving along, these are the kinds of things that we did several times through the early years. Circle line, and by the way, those of you guys that are on the Trips and Theater Committee now, be taking notes here. Get some ideas for things to do. I don't think you want to do tours of automobile assembly plants. I think they're all gone in New Jersey. Paper mill, Radio City. We went to Radio City a bunch of times for the Christmas and Easter show and other things. Since 77, in the last 50 years or so, these are just some of the kind of highlights that I picked out. Radio City, various theaters, dinner theaters and so forth, baseball, football, brewery tours. Brewery tours are cool. And museums and concerts. And there we all are in front of the buses that we took. And this is from, sometime in 24. We got a tour of Bell Labs, and there's everybody in the anechoic chamber. It's an amazing thing. Anechoic chambers, you can't hear anything, but you can still take a picture. And so through this period, we've done about 7 trips a year. And so hopefully we'll get ourselves back to that kind of a groove. And 2017, we went over to Milford, Pennsylvania, and saw this castle. And just 2 weeks ago, we went to the old Bethlehem Steelworks and took a look at that. And if you see that long horizontal pipe down in the lower part, you see there's a gap in it. That's why the steel mill failed, because they had that gap in the. Anyway, and then some big trips we took 3 times to Bermuda. And we had a 4th one scheduled, and then COVID canceled it out. Alaska, Ottawa, and there's Doug in the dark blue shirt on that beach. Nice beach, wasn't it? And then I just want to thank a whole bunch of people who participated in today's activity. And finally, I'm going to introduce Pete with this, and I want to make a quick thank you to Peter Schmeckel for making this. Turns out that he didn't make it. He told AI to make it from the 95th one, and it went in and made the changes, and it worked beautifully. So, anyway, with that, I'm going to stop and let Pete take over. And
Mitch, thank you for a wonderful, quick and fascinating look at our history over the last 95 years. In 95 years, it's incredible. It reminds me of what my children said, Dad, you're looking real good. 89 is the new 88. We asked for it, right? So the old guard started with some summer community leaders in 1930 at the Y, and here we are 95 years later. What about relevance today's age? Everything's about being up to date, right? Or ahead of up to date. We sing old-fashioned songs. We have a dress code. Limit membership to men. Try to keep the humor above board. Oh, this is about as naughty as it gets. Dolly Parton famously said, I was one of the very first women to burn my bra. And it took the fire department 4 days to get the fire out. No. Now, real current relevance, and I'm going to get personal here. We had a Dr. Sabahapakari, professor of medicine at Rutgers, and he explained a not so widely known heart condition called ATTR-CM, which is amyloidosis. Now, what that is, it takes the left hemisphere of your heart and it just freezes it up a little. It puts proteins in there and they can't get out, and gradually it gets harder and harder. At which point they stop pumping the water out of your ankle, and all sorts of things happen, which I spent a day and a half this weekend looking at. But I was diagnosed with amyloidosis about 3-4 weeks ago. And the speaker that we had on November 18th is a world recognized expert in this field. He has the first amyloidosis treatment center in New Jersey. He designed the test which cardiologists all over the country use to diagnose this condition. And I have an appointment with him in January at that center in New Brunswick to see if he can treat my ATTR. And I was listening to an explanation of all this in our November 18th meeting. But why do I have all these imposing, what do they call them, bullet points on the screen? I'd like to ask, how did we get this far as a thriving organization? How did we make it 95 years? And how do we make it in such a healthy position? One, our membership is diverse and intellectually alert, and we inspire each other and annoy each other a little bit, and we create something together when we are all together, which is, synergy. We really have it. Each year we renew, we gain new members. We change our officers, which I think is very important. We see some new members on committees, some old members go off. We have new walkers, golfers, bocce players, fishermen, and incredible singers. The singers are about to outnumber the rest of the group. We're going to have them sit down. The rest of us are going to have to stand up, I think. But also each year we lose some members. So we have this constant pressure to renew. When we renew, we adapt. Think about COVID. When COVID happened, our leadership, and Mitch was the lead in this as best as I can remember, decided that we had to go Zoom. We had to do something. They quickly decided within a day or two to go Zoom. And then people like Paul and Joel and other members of the group enabled it and made it happen. And we kept our meetings going right through COVID. When people felt comfortable coming back, we adopted the hybrid system. We adapted, as well as any other group that you can think of. I think that one really important number is the number of volunteers. We have more than 100 member volunteers, plus more who participate in our various activities. I think that's one of the key things that keeps us going from year to year to year. we follow the blue book, which basically it's our procedures and our memory, our organizational wisdom. And if you're an officer or if you're working with something and you want to know whether you're doing the right thing or not, you can go to the blue book or you can ask Steve, one way or the other. I would like to suggest that we simply think about continuing the winning formula that got us here so far. We get new members, right? We hand out the cards. We talk it up. Friends that we're talking to who've forgotten what we do, tell them about it. Bring them here if they show any interest. Just as important, keep up the level of volunteering and activity. And keep on attending the weekly meetings. And enjoy the company. And I think we've got another 95 years ahead of us. I'm told that we're entertaining a group photograph.
I will try to take the photograph from here as a panorama. So please sit down and smile with everybody.
We're going to ask our, hey, everybody, hold it, sit down. Sit down. We're not quite done yet. We're going to have Doug and Herb and Kai cut the cake because they were around 20 years ago. And gentlemen, we're going to cut the cake and then we can call it quits here. All right. Yes.